Okay, so you clicked on this video because you need a little bit of direction and advice on how to shave properly. And if nobody's ever told you, then obviously you don't need Google, you just need a dad, and I'll walk you through everything that you need to know and everything that I wish somebody told me at the beginning. So we're gonna do this in two setups. First, I'm gonna have just a little bit of introduction here on the equipment that you need to get your shaving journey going, and then I'll go over the actual shave part, and then a couple pro tips at the end that I'll help you out with that I've learned helped me a lot in getting through this. So the first thing is the equipment that you're going to need. You're going to need some kind of razor or shaver. There's different kinds of razors and shavers that way back when, in the good old times, they had these things that are called straight edge razors. You absolutely don't need one of these. These are a little complicated to use and definitely very dangerous, so don't need that. Now, going to your grocery store, these are probably the more common shavers that you're gonna get. This is kind of like a Gillette Mach 3 or something like that. I'll put a link up top here of the video of the kind that I'm using here. It's fine, it'll get you through. You obviously have these other kinds that are kind of cheaper, and they're called disposable razors. And what you'll notice, really, the big difference is, one, there's only a razor or two as far as the blades themselves, but also the big difference is, if you see, it doesn't pivot at all. So this is probably something that you would use if you were just on a road trip or just kind of going overnight to some place where you just had to get a quick shave in. That said, there's really no reason why you couldn't use this either, to be honest with you. And this is the one that you're probably going to want to use as your go-to. I will kind of tease you on a future video. This is the razor that I use every day, and it's a double-edge razor, and it saves a ton of money. I'll do a separate video on this down the road, but again, I just wanted to give you a little bit of the landscape of what to get and what not to get. So you can go to Amazon. Again, I'll put a link up top here of this video for the type of razor that I'm using here. Again, this is just like a Gillette Mach 3, and you can see that it has a pivot point and a whole bunch of razor blades there on the front of it. So that should be more than enough for what you need. So different kinds of razor blades. There's also just kind of different kinds of shaving cream or gel. Way back in the day, years and years ago, they would use soap, right? And that would be something that, you know, in the 30s and 40s that they did. Then came along shaving cream. Nowadays, this is what you're going to want. And again, I'll put a link up top, some kind of shaving gel. And what it's going to do is help prepare your skin and the actual hair follicles for the shaving process. And you're going to want to do this properly, because if you don't prepare your whiskers and your skin for the actual shave, then you're probably going to look like a war zone at the end of it. So some kind of shave gel. This is probably just as good as anything, just Edge shave gel. Gillette, which is another big razor blade company, obviously has their own stuff. I would shy away again from the cream. It's kind of foamy looking, and more get this gel stuff. So we'll come back to the shaving gel while we're actually shaving here in just a minute. And the last thing you're going to want, and this is kind of a pro tip, they have two different things just in case you nick yourself. And remember, your face, if you were to nick yourself in shaving, you're most likely not even going to feel it. It's just that your face is so dense with capillaries and with kind of the tendency to bleed, that you won't feel it much, but it's going to bleed like crazy. And you're going to want something like this. This is called an alum block, A-L-U-M block. Again, I'll put a link up top. This is great. This is what I use because it lasts forever and they're cheap. They also have these little white sticks called an ascorbic stick, and I'll put a link up top for that as well. You can use that. That's great because, again, say that you nicked yourself right here. You just kind of press and hold as long as it's wet where the cut is for, 5 or 10 seconds, and then take it off and you'll be good to go. The alum block is kind of like 2 for 1. It's great to just kind of run over your face at the end just to seal things up, but also in case you get cut, you can just kind of press it right there and count to 5 or 10, and it'll make the bleeding stop, which is the first thing that you want to do. And then you can just wash it off once it kind of scabs a bit. So those are the materials that you're going to need. The last kind of pro tip I'm going to throw in here before we get to the actual shaving pro tips is this. You're going to want some kind of aftershave, and I know this makes it sound like you're a grandpa or something like that, but this really serves two purposes. First, what you're going to be doing with your face is going through a process of preparing your skin and hydrating it. Then you're going to go to the actual preparation for the gel and shave part. And then at the end of it, you're going to do the cleanup and aftershave. So that's kind of the sequence. And what aftershave does is once you've opened up your pores and made the shaving hair easy to kind of shave off because you hydrated, this just kind of closes up your pores at the end. And then it just makes sure any razor burn or sting that you have is kind of shut down. It's got a little alcohol in it, and that's probably not a bad thing to do at the end of the shave. So let's transition to a different angle. We'll get to the shave here and give you everything that you need to know to shave properly so that you don't look like a war zone. So let's get to it. Okay, so now that we're in our second setup, and again, it's a little awkward, but I want to use the mirror so that you can see a little bit of the mechanics that I'm going to go through as well. But a couple things here before we get started. The first pro tip that you're going to want to kind of pay attention to, and I'm going to use this comb to demonstrate. If you look at the side of my ear, if you have sideburns, or in this case, I just have a faded haircut going into kind of some scruff, you're going to want to pick generally a place on each side of your head that's the same kind of calibration to your ear. So that's your pro tip. If you look at your ear and you say, hey, I want to kind of have a sideburn here, then you look over at your ear, pick a landmark, and then you're going to do the same landmark on the other side. The reason is, obviously, if you do have some kind of sideburns and not a full fade like I have, you're going to want them to be equal height. If they're not equal height, you're going to look a little strange, where one of, once you shave all this hair off, one of your sideburns is here and maybe one of them's here. So again, pick a place on your ear that's going to be your landmark for where you're going to want to start. And we'll get more to that once we get the gel going. The second pro tip that I'm going to use is, this is generally where I put my hand over my face. And I know it's going to sound a little funny in the microphone, but this is generally the areas that are the hardest to do when you're shaving. So underneath your nose, right here, around your lips, right? Chin area is a little bumpy, and there's a few tricks to that we'll get over. And then most people have a little bit of a dent right here in their neck. So here's my Adam's apple. It's going to be right here and right here. So to the left and the right of the Adam's apple, where it's going to be a little bit of a dent. You're going to want to make sure that you get that properly because you don't want a neck beard. You can see that your scruff is going to grow down. Just depends on you, but everybody's generally the same. You're going to have some kind of growth down here by your Adam's apple, and you're going to want to take care of all of that. One of the tips that I'm going to give you though for this spot, this is actually for me the hardest spot to get, which is right under my nostrils, is to use a nose hair trimmer. Obviously, that's a totally separate video for how to do your nose properly, but you can see if you can get those little hairs, and I'll do it actually for us while we're talking, get those little hairs that are right underneath. Those are going to be the hardest to shave with the actual shaver itself, because when you're shaving, you can see here the razor, right? How can I get that razor in there? And one of the tricks is obviously to put your nose up, and you can kind of do that. But that's going to be the hard spot to get, because you're going to want to get those last couple hairs that are underneath your nostril. And the trick that I found is to use a little nose hair trimmer, and you're going to be good to go. The other thing that you're going to do, because in this instance I have a lot of growth, is you're going to want to get some kind of a beard trimmer. Now, I have two boys, and what they do most of the time is they'll just use the beard trimmer to kind of get the scruff kind of taken care of, and then they'll leave the rest and don't actually shave down to skin. But if you're in a corporate environment or going to work, you're going to want to look clean and sharp. If you're going to go to a wedding or something like that, you're going to want to go clean and sharp. So instead of just doing your beard trimmer to get it down to whatever level that is, you're going to want to actually shave. So what I'm going to do in this video is both. I have a little bit of extra growth, and what you're going to want when your hair is about this long is you're going to want a beard trimmer to get it down so that this can get to work. If I just went to town right now on this hair, what I will see is that it's going to get plugged up a lot, and it's not going to be easy to shave. So I'm gonna try to bring it down to a shaveable length with my beard trimmer and then hit the razor. So let's get to that. Hopefully you can see properly if I bounce it off the mirror. And let me just get this shaving out of the way. And one last thought before I do, because it's gonna be easy to illustrate while I have this growth, is there's such a thing called grain of your hair. So grain is just basically the direction that your hair grows. And that's also important for you because everybody's different. So you can see here, for an example, that I'll have a little swirl. That's a different grain. It's kind of coming in and then swirling back this way up towards my ear. The grain, for an example, here on this hair is all down. Here it's down, here it's down. So you're gonna wanna look at yourself in the mirror with a little bit of growth to see what your grain is, because that's going to be the direction that you're going to want to shave, if that makes sense. The tip that I'm gonna give you right now where you're probably shaving improperly is that, in my opinion, and again, this is a dad opinion, so there's gonna be internet sleuths that'll be all over the comments in this video. I usually just shave once and then feel for anywhere that I missed and just take care of that one place. I do not shave this way and then back up this way. When you're going and shaving counter grain or against the grain, yes, you will get a closer shave, but you're also more likely to do two things. You're more likely to cut yourself, and you're also more likely to get ingrown hairs, and you definitely don't want either of those if you can help it. So for our purposes for today on how to shave properly, we're just gonna do it quick and easy. And I just wanted to give you that introduction so that we can get to the actual shave part with picking the proper place, with making sure that we're taking care of the tricky zones, knowing that there's grain and direction to where this hair growth is. And that's gonna be the general direction that we're gonna follow as we're shaving and finishing up the job. So let's get to it. And the first thing, so what I normally do is I shave just after I take a shower. What that's gonna do is prepare the hair in two ways. It's gonna get it all moist, get my pores opened up, get the actual the whiskers kind of ready and softened up. They're gonna be a lot more stiff if you don't kind of hydrate properly. And then the second thing you want to do is to choose, obviously, and get all of your equipment. We're basically going to need these two things primarily, and our beard trimmer. And you're going to want to get all those laid out. And then the last pro tip I'm going to give you is run this water and get it hot. There's two ways to do this. I just use the sink faucet, just kind of keep it running a little bit. Other people will plug up the sink. I don't like to do that because usually there's old toothpaste in the bottom of the sink or old whiskers and it gets kind of strange. So I'll just run the water a little bit as I'm doing here until it gets hot, because what I'm going to do as I'm shaving is taking this and running it underneath that cold water to basically get the hairs. You can see the hairs are going to get stuck in those blades right there, and they're also going to get kind of clogged up in the back here. So when you're washing it underneath the water here, what you're really just trying to do is to get the hairs out of the razor blades themselves so that you can get back to work. What you'll find if you don't do that is that you're going to start to shave and nothing's really going to start to happen because it's all plugged up. And so again, don't rub your finger. You can see the razor blades will cut you if you go this way on the blade. Don't do that. You're just going to kind of, more than anything, just kind of shake it underneath the water. It's nice and hot now. And what I do is I normally just, at the beginning, I get that water nice and hot so that the blades are a little warmer than room temperature for some reason. I just think that works better. So let's get to this now. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna take my beard trimmer and just go grain down. Again, people will make some case on the internet that you go both ways. Don't make it complicated. We're just trying to teach you the basic, simple way to do this. So we're gonna go ahead and pick the landmark on my ear. You're gonna see that there's a little spot right here, a little bump on the place where my ear attaches to my head, that I'm gonna go on the top of that bump and just go down and make sure you're over the sink, by the way. If you can see what I can see, the whiskers are obviously making a mess and falling into the sink as I'm doing this. So I'm going to give you a little peek. This is what it looks like, right? This is kind of fuller growth that I had at the beginning of the video, and this is just kind of as it's getting shaved down. That's the perfect length, by the way, for it to actually be shaved properly. So we'll just keep going, and I'll finish this up and fast forward through this, and we'll get to the next spot in the process here in just a second. Okay, so I finished up with the beard trimmer, and there's a couple things that you're gonna see. Obviously it made a mess, and you're gonna wanna stay on top of these whiskers and get them kind of flushed down the sink as you're going. Don't leave it till the end because it could be a lot. And the second thing that I didn't show you in the video, just because I didn't want this to be really long, is as you're going over your chin in some of the areas where there's a bend, like there's a jawline right here, what I normally do is as it's running, I'll just hold it with 2 fingers and it'll kind of pivot itself and stay close to, like, you don't want to press down, if that makes sense. Don't use a lot of pressure. Let that beard trimmer just kind of go with the contour and kind of bend around. That's going to be the same technique that you use with the razor itself. Again, you're going to want to hold it something like this. Don't press in. You absolutely don't want to do that. The razor blades themselves will work just fine, just with just a little bit of pressure. Again, you don't need to dig in. If you dig in and then start to pull down, you're going to give yourself a pretty good cut, and you don't want to do that. So for a good sharp razor, and that's maybe another pro tip, is always use, and don't be too kind of concerned about trying to save too much money on these razors, even though they're expensive. Toss one out, use a nice clean one, maybe every few times that you shave. If you're shaving every day, again, when I used to in corporate America, I have to shave every day. I'd probably go through a cartridge or a razor cartridge like this maybe once a week because I'm not getting this much stubble even day to day. So I did the beard trimmer. You can kind of see the length. It's pretty good. I did focus quite a lot on this spot because right underneath the nostril is going to be kind of the trickier spot. And let's get started now on the actual shave. So what I'm going to do is just get some warm water. Again, I got my razor, a little bit of warm water to warm that up. And what I'll do is just get a little bit of warm water on my face and then shake my gel. Get about that much in my hand. And I'll kind of go take the bottom of it, leave a little bit more in the hand, get another little chunk. Sorry, you couldn't see that. So I took a little chunk of the bottom, and I'll kind of keep it in my hand as I'm going. So I always do circles because it allows me to get kind of the 360 and all around the whiskers. So I will kind of get this nice and lathered up. Take your time on this because, to be honest with you, what I found is that the more you kind of take time to prepare the hair, the easier it'll get off. What you're trying to basically do is you're doing this, again, I'm just doing little circles and swirls and then working off the original dollop that I put in, is you're just, again, trying to prepare your skin. The more time you take to prepare, the less chance that you're going to have of really getting a whole bunch of razor burn at the end or cutting yourself. So you can see that this is probably pretty good. I'm not overly worried about making sure that it's the same height on, the bubbles or the cream itself. I'm just trying to make sure I didn't get anywhere. Where I'm really trying to focus is that chin area is where you're going to want to get a lot of just kind of circles in there, because that's going to be one of the harder spots to work on. Most likely you're going to have some at the end that you just don't need because this is more than enough to get going on. So I'll just go ahead and wash this off. Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the video so far, and as you can see, the shave came out great, so be sure to watch until the end. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't, please be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can get more of my tips. It also helps me get through the algorithm and grow the channel, all of which are really good things. And I do have some other ideas for some awesome videos. Please be sure, if you have any questions, get it down there in the comments. I'd love to answer them for you, help out. with the adulting type of questions and anything else that you have a need for some advice on from a dad. So again, if you could please subscribe, that would help out a ton. Let's get back to the video. So now, if you remember at the beginning of the video, I told you to pick that place on your ear. I kind of, you know, use my little comb to show you so that you can kind of pick. The reason is I want to have the same place starting or ending, depending on how you look at it, place on my ear on both sides. So I usually pick, again, the top of that little bump and just go down. So you can see that I'm going as close to this ear as I can. I'm just doing it in motions that are about 2 inches to 3 inches. And at this point, if you looked at the razor, you'll see that it's starting to get filled up. So again, that's where you're going to want to have your water running. Don't get your fingers up there in that razor. Just let the water kind of rinse it out. But you can start to feel that already here. It's nice. I mean, if I went counter grain and up, you're going to feel little pricks. But for the purposes of a normal shave and not getting all technical on it, this is going to be fine. Just 1 pass or 2 passes down, and then we'll just kind of keep going. You will notice that you'll get little fuzzy hairs up in here. A lot of times I'll just kind of get closer to the mirror and get some of those while I'm at it. This is a little pocket, makes me unique. A little pocket or a little dent that's right there. You're going to have your own little unique features. You'll see that instead of going down, I'm just going to go a little bit of sideways on that just to make sure that I get in that indentation. I'm going to do the same for the 2 indentations that I pointed out down here too. So usually you're going to rinse the razor. I'm basically done with the right side of my face except for down here. I've rinsed it already twice, so keep it rinsed and keep it kind of free of obstructions. So, you know, maybe 2 on this side, 2 on this side, and then as I'm tackling the middle part here, I'll probably be rinsing it out another 2 times or 3 times. So keep it clean is the whole key. I usually go in zones, so I'm doing the right side of my face now and getting down to that Adam's apple area. Again, you're going to want to have pretty good lighting so that you can kind of see not only what you're doing, but this is where that dent is. So maybe I'll come in a little sideways on that dent just to kind of make sure that I'm getting everything. It's not a race, so the more time that you're put in doing this in this zone structure, like the right side, the left side, and then the middle, then you'll be sure that you didn't miss something. There's a little catch at the end that we'll do to make sure we didn't miss something, but if you can catch it while you're doing it, it's a lot easier. Oh, got a little shaving cream on my glasses. Again, there's a little pocket that I have here, so I'm going to go sideways a little bit on that pocket. It's definitely getting plugged up, so I'll keep it going. Again, some people keep that water running the whole time. There's really no need. As long as it's cleaning out the razor, that's really all you're needing the water for at this point. And you can see I'm holding it like this with these couple fingers because as I'm coming over this ridge line, I want it to pivot itself. What you don't want to do is press in and kind of you tell the razor where to go. Now, just kind of hold it so that it pivots around those bends and those curves on its own. And again, I'm not pressing hard at all. It's just kind of skimming across the skin. And that's the purpose of that cream and the shaving cream that I use, that, you know, the more lubrication you have there, it's just going to kind of skim right over. So now we're getting into the last zone. So you can see I rinse it off probably twice here, rinse it off twice here. This is how I go. I go right, left, and then in the middle. And then I'll just double check if I missed any spots at the end. What I always do is I leave this place, which is the hardest place, until the very end. So you can see what I'm doing with my lips too. You're going to want to kind of roll your lips. Sometimes you can inflate your lips a little bit just to get a little bit of contour for the razor to run properly on. You can see here it's dippy. I have a big dip before I get to my chin, and another big dip right here. So I'm just trying to work very gentle, light strokes. 2 fingers just kind of letting the razor pivot itself. And I'm not really puckering like I was kissing somebody. I'm just kind of moving my lips around, and you'll start to see that will help you maybe get a better angle. I missed a little spot there, so as you're going. Okay, so now we're getting to the lips and to the nose part, and this is where it gets tricky. Right above where my mustache would be, that's easy. Just go down. It's going to get a little trickier right there. That's the hardest spot. But you can see I left the spot underneath my lip intentionally, because what I do is I go this way, up, just real light, because there's a ridge where the actual lip starts for me. And I want to be careful of that ridge, because if I'm pressing down too hard and kind of going up too aggressively, I've cut myself pretty good on the little edge where the lip gets pink. So what I'm going to do is just very lightly go up. You can see I'm moving my lips around as I'm going. This is where you're going to want to take your time right there, because that's the tricky spot. And you can see that if you see the very bottom of my lip, by going up just lightly with a little pivot of holding the razor with just a couple fingers like this and letting it pivot, it kind of takes care of everything. Last part's the mustache. So again, I'm going to go down, and then the hardest part's going to be right there. So kind of done. I'm going to do one more rinse, because this is going to be where, and you can see what I'm doing with my nose is I'm turning it like that. What I'm trying to do when I go that way is get this nice and flat right there, and then the same there. Because if I just come in without doing that, I'm not going to get a proper distance in up towards my nose. As you can see, the razor is probably a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch. So I'm going to turn my nose kind of funny and try to get the corner, just that little corner of the razor in, almost into my nostril. But again, I'm doing these funny little movements because I want to get as much as I can. So again, I'm doing that. So as I'm down here, I'm kind of moving my lips more. As I'm down here, I'm trying to pull the top of my mustache down with my muscles, just so I can get into those little grooves right there. So I'm pretty much done for the purposes of the shave. So let's kind of go to the back end of this. So there's no doubt that I missed a spot or two, and you can feel it in this next step. So what I do is kind of go to medium water, because I'm trying to now go from hot to medium to start to close up my pores, because I was using hot to open them. Now I'm going to try to close them right down. What I'm doing as I take this medium water is I'm trying to feel for any places that I missed. And I missed a spot right here. These are going to be little spots. Make sure I didn't leave anything around my collar line. That's going to be a pretty common place to leave. So if it's a big miss, like I missed a whole chunk, you might want to go back and get some gel. In these instances, I really didn't miss any big spots. So my skin, once I re-wetted it, is real lubed up and kind of moves pretty good. It's pretty slick. So I don't need to reshave or re-cream or gel any parts. So that's pretty much how you do it. I think if we're going to summarize this up in a couple places, use a good disposable razor. Make sure you know the grain of your hair. If it's longer at the beginning, you're going to want to use a beard trimmer. The next thing that you could do if you were really going bonkers is re-gel up and then go the opposite way that I went this time. That's going to make it even smoother. I don't think it's necessary, certainly not for an everyday shave. And I think for our purposes right now, you're in a good place, and this is how to shave properly. The last thing I'm going to bring into play is just this alum stick. or alum kind of block. Again, I'll put the link up above. But what I do for this is any places that are kind of bumpy, usually you'll get bumps if I decided to do the razor up and I go against the grain in that's probably your biggest mistake for razor burn around your collar, is going the opposite way on grain. I'll just take the alum block. Again, it's a little wet. My skin's a little wet. And what you'll find is it stings a little bit, but what it's doing is it's shutting up those pores. And if you have a little bit of trickly blood because you had kind of bumps or something like that, this is gonna stop all that blood pretty quick. So alum block, again, you can get this on Amazon. I put the link up above. You're gonna want that. It's just a couple bucks. And then you're good to go. Now, the very last step is this. I just use an aftershave. You can get anything from Amazon or the grocery store. But what you're gonna wanna do is put a dab. I don't know if you saw that, but this is the aftershave I use. Doesn't matter about the company, but the point is I'm just putting a dab in the pocket of my hand and then rubbing my hands together. And what I do is just kind of go like this. Spend a lot of time on that collar line of your neck, because that's where you're going to get burned if you have a shirt that's kind of rubbing up against it. And usually a good aftershave is the way to go. It's not, you can get them so that they're different scents, so you don't need to smell like grandpa. But the point is that what you're trying to do is just kind of shut down your pores at this point. They went through a lot. As you recall at the beginning of this video, I had pretty good growth, and now we're good to go. So that is how you shave properly. Hopefully you got some good tips out of all of this. I'm super proud of you for getting this far and asking the question of how to shave properly. So if you did learn anything, please do me two things. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear if this helped you and if you learned something about this, and also if you have any ideas for future videos. So hopefully you got something out of this. That is how you shave properly according to Dad. We'll see you in the next video.